let's dive into Ike and Roo's training so that we can stay consistent at home. So whenever they're home and they're offering good behaviors, that could be following our commands, being polite, not jumping on people, anything like that, we want to make sure that we're following through with praise, petting, or treats. That way we can encourage those behaviors and we'll see those more often. And then if we're seeing any behaviors we don't want to see, that could be jumping on people, making any rude decisions, or breaking our commands, we want to make sure that we're following through with our training equipment every single time. That way we can break those habits and we'll see them less often. So starting off, I have them both on a prong collar. They're doing great. So to open and close the prong collar, you'll secure one of those links, push up those two little loops, squeeze, and wiggle them through. To put it back, you'll see those two little loops right there on that prong and those two prongs. Line them up, squeeze, slide them back through. And how this works is, say they're offering a rude behavior, could be jumping on someone, or if we're on a walk and they're pulling on that leash, we'll mark that incorrect behavior by saying no, following through with a pop of that prong collar, and then continuing on that command or whatever activity we were doing. So no, pop, continuing on. And then next we have their remote collar. So both of their collars work the same way. So to turn them on and off, you'll see that little red dot on the side of the remote and a matching red dot on the side of the collar. You touch those two together and it's just kind of like a magnet. And then the collar itself will flash green. That means the collar is on. To turn on the remote, there's an L button on the back right here. You'll press and hold until that screen lights up blue, and that means it is on. So on the side, you'll see a black S button and a red S button. Ike is that black S button and Roo is that red S button. So depending on who you need to communicate with, you'll press their button and it'll communicate to that collar. So say someone's pulling ahead on that leash or broke a sit. How you'd mark that is by saying no and then following through with that button depending on who it is and then continuing on that command. So no, button, continuing on that command. And then that is how to use their equipment. And let's dive into their commands. So first we have our heel command. Heel is that nice loose leash walking position on our left-hand side. I usually have Roo on the outside and Ike on the inside. That's usually just how they fall. But if you have it the other way around, they still walk perfectly fine. And then if they're ever pulling ahead of us, to the side, anything like that, we want to make sure that we're following through with our training equipment. That way we can get them right back next to us. And then usually during a walk, we only have them in that heel position around 80 or 90% of the time. The other 10 or 20%, we have them in free. And free just means that they're free of any command. So we can use that to break them out of a sit, down, anything like that. But when we do tell them free, they're able to do as they please, but they're still not allowed to pull on that leash or offer any rude behaviors. So instead of them following us around, we're following them around. And if they are still offering those rude behaviors, we need to make sure that we're following through with our training equipment. That way we can diminish those behaviors over time. And then next we have sit and down. So both sit and down have implied stays. So once we tell them one of those two commands, they're not allowed to get up until we tell them free or heel. So sit could be door manners. So if we're approaching a door, we can have them in a sit. If we go to open the door and they get up from that sit, we say no, close the door, try again until they get it right, still using our training equipment. And then once they do get it right, we can go through that door together. And then same with down. So if we have them in a down and we're looking at something at the store, or even if we just have them in a down at home, if they get up from that position, we want to mark that behavior with their training equipment and by saying no, getting them back in that position, and then doing whatever it is that made them get up again until they get it right. And then next we have place. So place is a boundary stay. This one's great for if we're having people over, making dinner, or if we just don't want them under our feet making those unwanted behaviors. So we can tell them place, send them to place, and then once they're on there, they're good to sit, stand, turn in a circle, lay down. They're just not allowed to offer those rude behaviors. So if they're barking, whining, going at each other, anything like that, we need to make sure that we're following through with our training equipment. That way we can cut off those behaviors. And also if they get off of place while we're doing something across the room, going back, putting them back on place and trying again until they get it right. But also introducing it slowly on leash at home. So starting with a few steps at a time, eventually making your way across the room. And then next, we have come when called. So this one, how you practice it at home is having them on a super long leash. And so once they're distracted, you'll create distance between you two and then call them back to you nice and loudly by saying come. If they don't come back to us, we want to make sure we're following through by reeling them in just like fish. But ideally, they'll come into our space and sit. With this command, even if they don't come directly to us, we want to make sure that we're still rewarding them every single time they're in our space. That way, we're that positive zone and they'll want to come back to us even more often. And then next we have leave it. So leave it is great for if we're cooking and something drops on the floor, or if there's just something on a walk that they're not allowed to have. How this one works is if something falls, we can tell them leave it, and they'll go into a sit or a down position. Once they're in that position, we can reward them from their hand. And if the object that fell is something that they're allowed to have, we can free them and then tell them okay when they're allowed to have it. But if it's not something they can have, we want to make sure that we're still paying attention to them in case they make a move for it. And introducing all of these commands at home will definitely help with that consistency. That way we have a more effective way to communicate with them. And then once they understand the rules and boundaries, then we can start to overlay the remote collar and then move more towards using that remote collar and less of the prong collars. But that is all of their commands, and let's watch them do them out in public.
Good heel. Good boy, Ike. Good heel.
Sit. Good, sit. Sit. Good, sit. Good, sit. Sit. Good, sit. Sit. Free. Let's go over some of the other functions of the remote collars. So to turn the collar on and off, there's that red dot on the side of that remote and the red dot on the side of the collar. Touch those two together and the collar will flash green. That means the collar's on. If you touch them together again, that collar will flash red, and that just means you turned off the collar. The on and off button for that remote is on the back right here. It's that L button. So to turn it on, you'll press and hold until that screen lights up blue. To turn it off, you'll press and hold again until the screen turns off. That L button also functions as a flashlight. So this one's great for if you're at home at night and you maybe need to see where they are in the yard. If you click it once, it'll flash that collar. If you click it again, it'll have that light constantly on, and a third time, we'll turn it off. On the side right here, I have that T button. That's just the vibrate setting. So if you click it, you can click whoever's collar you need to communicate with. So to vibrate, you'll click the T, and then if you want Roo's, it'll be the red. If you want Ike's, it'll be the black. And that just vibrates the collar. I use that setting to see if I turn the collar on or if the collar might be dead. Something like that. And then these buttons on the side, as I just said, that black one is for Ike, and then the red one is for Roo. So this is Roo's collar right here. If I need to communicate with Roo for whatever reason, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark that behavior by saying no, and then press that red button, and that'll communicate with his collar. So red is Roo, black is Ike. And then right now I have their levels locked. So I have Ike at level 27 and then Roo at level 22. You might have to adjust this based on what's going on around them. So at home, they might be on a lower level, might be on a higher level. If they're not responding to the preset levels that I have for them, you're welcome to adjust it. How you unlock them is this lever or this knob right here. You'll press and hold until it flashes, and then you can adjust based off of that. And then press and hold again until it stops flashing, and that'll just reset that level. And then on the back, there's also that M/C button. That just stands for momentary versus continuous. So continuous would be having that sensation go until you let go of the button. Now that they're further in that training, we have them on momentary. So no matter how long you hold their button down, it just sends them one little signal, and then that's all. I would definitely recommend keeping it on this setting as long as they're working well with their collars. And then it is waterproof, so if they play in the water over the summer or if they tend to get wet, that's okay. I would just recommend, if they're staying wet for a longer period of time, rotating where the collar is so it doesn't irritate any specific part on their neck. And then this collar should go on them as soon as they wake up and then as soon as they're about to go to bed. So it's on them anytime that you're home with them. So if it's on them for 12, 14-hour days, depending on how long you're home with them, it should stay charged for up to 2 days. I would charge it every other day at that point. The charge port for them is on the back right here. You'll see that little flap between the two prongs, and then on here, it's right at the bottom of the remote. That charge cord is inside this box for you. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. But other than that, you are all set to have fun and stay consistent.